Yeah, hello. Good morning and welcome to WeBind's Masterclass on advertising. And for today's session or masterclass on advertising, we have got Mr. Gaurav Day. And students, as you know, WeBind connects industry experts live into your classrooms. And Mr. Gaurav is getting connected live into your classrooms right here, right now. And just to give you a background of Mr. Gaurav, he has got over 2 decades of experience in this field. So he can be safely considered as a veteran in the field of advertising. Currently, he is the head of strategy at Triature, while previously he was working with industry giants like Facebook, Leo Burnett, to name a few. So without wasting any time, without with the introduction and just directly jumping to the crux of the session, which Mr. Gaurav will be giving, over to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Sir, a short introduction of the colleges. We have got Anand Institute of Management. We have got Asian Business School, Delhi. We have got Datta Mega Institute of Management. And we've also got Hindu Management Institute and SV Institute of Management, Kari. So these are the colleges which is live on your screen. Over to you, sir.
Thanks. This is by far the biggest class I've ever attended in my life. So I'm very excited as well. What I will do today, because advertising and marketing for over 2 decades has been part of my life, and I realized that covering everything in one go, at least in 1 hour, is not quite possible. So what we will try and do is to just go over what the industry kind of looks like, what is there in it, and how is it maybe relevant to maybe some of the ambitions you young people may have to join the industry. Okay. So I'm going to just start, share my screen, and I'm going to just go over some of the questions that I think may be relevant. And of course, I'll be done in about 10, 15 minutes, and then it's over to you to ask me as many questions as you want. All right, here we go. Well, hello, firstly. I've got a very elaborate introduction, and thank you for that. To just jump into some basic questions about advertising, which is like, what are the kind of career opportunities we have in advertising, and are there specialized courses for these career graphs? I know all of you are already like master's candidates, or like, you're on your way to graduate. But besides that, to get into the industry, is there something that you should do? Before I try to answer the second part, let me just try to take you through the first part, which is what constitutes advertising. In 2016, there are primarily 3 parts to this. Part number 1 is there are agencies. Part number 2 is that there are brands. And part number 3 is that there is media. It's interesting to see that agencies can mean a lot of things, agencies can mean creative agencies. Agencies can mean media agencies, digital agencies, research agencies, production houses. Now, all of these sometimes work together. Sometimes some of these work on their own with clients, but primarily the entire mix of making advertising happen comes back to these people on one side. And of course, the other very important side are brands. In India, you have many different kinds of advertising. I mean, it's most probably one of the richest advertising markets in the world. Some of the primary sectors in advertising in India, I just wanted to point them out because it kind of helps. It also helps you relate, because when you look at your TV or even your mobile phone or even your laptop and you're browsing through the net, chances are you'll see stuff from these industries. Biggest among them is FMCG. FMCG is, of course, Unilever. FMCG is P&G, Reckitt and Coleman. All the soaps you use, shampoos you use, dishwashing things. This is one of the most richest. These are the richest brands in India in terms of like advertising. The amount they spend, the amount they they spend on television as well as producing advertising. E-commerce, Myntra, Flipkart, Amazon, you'll see a lot of advertising for them. It's even though the industry size itself isn't as large, the advertising and marketing budgets are possibly second in size in India right now. Auto, of course, India is actually is one of the few countries in the world where the auto market is still growing. It's not unlike the US or even Europe, where either it's diminishing or it's just kind of plateaued. In India, auto is still growing and will continue to do so over the next few years. Finance, uh, we in India are discovering the different kinds of money there can be, and the different ways to use your money or invest our money. And of course, finance is a very huge part of this. And then there are some other sectors as well, but these are the primary sectors. Uh, However, when you see all of this, how does it all come together? Where do you see this? And that's where the third pillar of advertising kind of starts coming in, which is media, which is represented by television, radio, out of home, billboards, display advertising that you see outside at bus stops and other places, hoardings. Out of home is a very, very big part of advertising in India. Digital, of course, is huge now in India, even though our budgets right now may not be as big as the rest of the world. It is the fastest growing sector in advertising across. And part of digital, but not necessarily, is also mobile advertising. And mobile doesn't mean those messages you keep on getting on your cell phones all the time. It's like, rich media. When you're browsing through YouTube, or when you're browsing through anything that you're doing on your mobile phone, and advertising that comes up on it, it's very, very relevant, and it's very, how would I say it? It's a very new thing, and the huge innovations that are kind of coming in that space as well. Some of us may work in advertising. I already work in advertising, and I hope to see some of you join that industry. But what we sometimes don't realize is that as consumers, we are being subjected to a number of things around us, constantly giving us messages. Previously, I used to work in a company called Facebook, which you may have heard of. But in Facebook, we always talk to a lot of brands. And, one of the things that we always talk about, that the ability for a brand on Facebook to impact a consumer is as little as 3 seconds. Now, when you think about that, it's like in 3 seconds, it is very hard for people to absorb an entire message, but you only have 3 seconds to make an impact. So whatever you show up front has to be that much more impactful. Otherwise, we will do exactly what we're supposed to be doing. We'll just keep browsing. That's why mobile advertising has picked up so much importance over the past few years. One of the questions, so in terms of career graphs, you can have careers in all of these spaces individually. You can be part of agencies, you can be part of brands, and you can be part of the media houses. Not all of them need a specialized degree. Creative, maybe, especially if you're a designer. But otherwise, a large part of these things are, an MBA. Having an MBA will help you. Having a research degree will help you. But unlike many other industries, the very interesting thing about advertising is that you learn so much just by being in a place. Half the things that you will learn and you will apply even 10 years from now is where you work first. So that way, I would say that, if you're interested in a specialized advertising course, there are a couple of diploma courses around, but the best thing to do is to just start getting an internship somewhere if you're interested in the industry. I think you learn a lot more like that. It would be my first advice. But moving on, I have put up a question about, so what do you actually do in advertising? Where does all of this stuff come from? Where do you just come up with a concept that, or a TV commercial that I just see, or an interesting web video, or something, or a newspaper ad? Where does it all come from? So this is where my second question comes up: is what is an average day in an advertising career? And it depends again on what you do. You could be part of a strategy team. You could be part of account management, or you could be part of creative. I have been a creative professional as well as a strategy professional for a long time. It necessarily is not always true that, if you do one, you can go to the other, but it's not restrictive either. So, it depends where your interest lies. If you're in strategy, what do? You do a lot of research. You do a lot of qualitative research. You end up sourcing a lot of quantitative research. You put it all together. You come up with plans for brands. What do I mean by a plan? It's like today, there is a brand called Skoda. There is a new car coming up. That plan will tell a client that, hey, you know what? These are the people who are most likely to buy your car. These are the things that are most important to these people. This is how they're thinking. This is their idea of social status. This is how they like cars to be represented, or what a car means in their life. It's not just about, going out with your family. Maybe it's about going to business meetings. That's why they want a particular kind of car. So that's what strategy kind of ends up telling you. It gives you theories about what can work. Those theories are tested with a little bit more research. Sometimes not. Depends on the brand. Then what strategy also does, it projects. It gives an idea. This is what the brand will look like 5 months from now, 1 year from now, 2 weeks from now. So that's what primary job of a strategist. And along with that, strategy always works with with the other functions, which is also account management. The account management is a very interesting role. It has got a little bit of strategy. It has a little bit of creative, but primarily account management, excuse me, is expected to manage traffic. All the work that is coming in from the different brands that a agency works on. They manage the traffic of all this work. What has to be delivered at what time? They manage deadlines. They manage delivery. They manage budgets. We agencies work with clients on certain retainers or certain amount of money that they pay us a month. And there are project fees. They manage those budgets, how it is best used. They manage also the money that a client spends. Like, if a client is doing production, they will work with a production house to make sure that the budgets are in place. And they're also the liaison also oftentimes between the relationship between strategy, between client, between creative. They are the center point often of many agencies. This is the model that has been working for many, many years. Nowadays, these models are not absolutely strict, but they give you a fair idea about what are the different spaces, what you would do depending on what part of the agency you are, or what you are doing in advertising. Creative, which is usually the big mystery about what is creative, how do you guys come up with stuff? For literally over 15, 16 years, I've kept on answering. Every time I'm asked, how do you come up with these ideas? And I just give a very vague answer about, it's just like, we just think of stuff. It's not as vague as that. It's actually a fairly practiced process. Based on the briefs that a strategist or an account manager gives us, we sit in concept. When we say concept, as in like what are the different kind of storylines that based on if it's a print ad or a television ad or a digital piece, what are the different kind of storylines it can have, and then based on our individual craft and creative, which can either be art or copy or design. Art and design are not the same thing. Many people think it is. It's not. We come together and put our crafts together to make these pieces. I have been a writer. My first job was as a copywriter. And that was many years ago. It was, I think, 1998 or 99. I started in a company called McCann Erickson, which is headed by a man called Prasun Joshi, who is quite famous. Some of you may know him. And I learned to be a writer. And the only way I learned to be a writer is not because I had training, it's because I just kept on doing it and I had a knack for it. What we also do is partner. Whom do we partner with? We partner with production houses. Production houses are the people who make TV series. Production houses are the people who help you put together maybe like a digital video. They will help put together a photography. So those are the photographers. These are our partners, and we partner with them because our understanding of how we want something to look like is like we know what we want. So we partner with them. Very importantly, we deliver. It's up to us. We are the last mile. saying that okay, all of this briefing has happened, strategy has happened, testing has happened. We are the people who finally take the thing and make the final pieces. And it's not as if it happens in one time. You go present to a client, you make sure that it's in the right. You talk with the client, you get feedback, you change things around. But it is our job to deliver as creative people. And of course, we supervise. But what do we supervise? We supervise, when there is TVCs being made. TVCs means ads, TV ads. We are there on the shoot. We are making sure that we're sticking to the script that we have written. We are there to make sure that the quality of the visual is right, the angles are right. So we have that mixed role, and it comes out of experience. The more you do it, every creative person will have been to a shoot at some point of time of the careers or other. Which brings me to my next question. So here I'm talking about advertising. Then I also talk about digital advertising. What is the difference? Is it different? Yes and no. It actually comes back to a very important point. I know many of you are in management institutes, and I'm sure you go through research, and there are primarily two kinds of research: qualitative, quantitative. But what it comes back to is actually this word called audience. Audience means consumers. India has the biggest middle class population in the world. However, the middle class population starts from age 15 and goes up to age 45. People who are in age 40, in the 45 age bracket, or maybe even 40, they are not as digitally savvy as you and me maybe. You're most probably more digitally savvy than I am. So when you're 20 years old, you're very easily digital. Therefore, it's the audience division that kind of has brought upon this need for digital advertising to be seen separately, because the way audiences are reached, the way consumers are reached, the kind of messaging that they like, the kind of interaction and interactivity that they like, that's very different. And that has an impact on something called media. That in regular traditional advertising, there is TV, there is radio, there is outdoors, out of home is what we call it. But the minute it becomes digital, it becomes websites. It becomes YouTube. Those little strips that you see when your video is playing and you always want to turn it off. That's a different kind of media. Most probably our parents don't look at YouTube as much as we do. Then there's of course Facebook. Facebook that shows you so many different messages from so many different brands. Sometimes there's videos, sometimes there's messages, sometimes there's pictures. The chances of, again, the generation above us to be looking at Facebook a lot is very low. That's why the media is what divides these two kind of places. And every media has its own kind of behavior. So therefore, we kind of create digital thinking of that audience, guys like you, who are especially spending a lot of time on Facebook and so on. And that also leads to a huge difference in the kind of research that there is. The way we look at research is the way we look at audiences who are traditional, we research them through more like TV modes, SEC-A, SEC-B, and so on. The minute it goes into digital, the way we research becomes very different. The way we understand people becomes very different. There we look at how much time you spend looking at stuff. There we research what are the kind of psychographics that you look at. Or in a traditional way, we look at a word called demographic. You can look it up. And in digital, we look a lot more at psychographic, which is how do people behave on digital? What kind of videos do they look at? How much time they spend? How long does it take before they scroll? And it's very important because as you guys may have realized that if you're watching TV, if you're watching a match, or if you're watching a movie, the minute that there's a TV break, you immediately pick up your cell phone and your head goes down. So you're actually not watching what's on TV at all. So it kind of, therefore those behaviors become very important to understand. And there are many ways to understand it. I can't cover all of that today, but I hope at least that, you can just start Googling things. I think it'll help. You can start looking at different kind of research modules that are there on the web. And therefore, it has a huge impact on the kind of creative work that we do. while on TV and outdoor on radio, we are making, scripts. We are having radio spots. We have like these big outdoor pieces. But the minute we go into digital, the kind of ads and the kind of messages that brands set out are very different. And they're very different primarily because while you're looking at Facebook, you hardly want to spend time looking at a brand. You want to see something interesting. So brands have to be a lot more interesting for all of us. Excuse me. And therefore the creative output also changes a lot. So now there are like people who do traditional advertising and then the people who specialize in digital format creativity, which is very different. Which brings me to the next question that some of you may be looking at careers in research, and I think it's a great career to have generally. There are two kinds of research that is there in advertising. There is a lot of primary research. There are places like IMRB and so on, which does fantastic work that helps a lot of like brands and agencies make decisions about whom they have to reach out to, how much budgets must they have in their marketing, and so on. But the other part that I specialize in a lot is qualitative research. It's called, and we kind of, the output of that research is insights. Insights is about understanding people. It is not about numbers alone. It is about behavior. It is about inclination. It is about emotion. It is about culture, how people think. So and in the insight space, there you can also work in a regular advertising agency as a strategist. There you can also work with media houses such as Group M, and even Madison. You can work there as a consumer research specialist who understands insights. There are many insight specialist insight specialist companies in the world. What I can guide you to is that our agency also has a entity called Social Samosa. You may have heard of Social Samosa, or you may not have. Please do go and look at that. Social Samosa is India's biggest social media insights website. It's a very good website. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. It's very easy content. It'll start giving you an idea of what I mean by insights. You can also look at Mashable. You can look at Homegrown. There are many such things. But the minute you go into something called consumer insights, there are multiple ways of looking at it. And some of it can actually not look like research at all. It can just look like articles, but it's actually research. And therefore, it all comes back again to audience. When there is a certain kind of an audience, only a certain kind of a research works. Many people, again, like I said, people like us, we are very different from the way our parents were, or even like maybe a generation above them were. So therefore, these insights are very important because we no longer behave the way they used to behave. We are very differently shaped. That's where the research kind of helps. And of course, there is audience research, different kinds of audience research. And then there's the other part of it, which is media research. How is this media working? What is the ideal formatting of this media? What are the different kinds of media? What is a new media there can be? There's also technology research. How is this visual technology working or not? But still, all of these start from your core of quant and qual. Start from primary and secondary research on one side and insights on the other side. Depending what space that you prefer occupying, you can start researching. You can start looking on the web for maybe slide shares. If you guys are part of LinkedIn, and I really advise you to all to be a part of LinkedIn, start building your profiles. It will help you a lot in kind of like being found, maybe by companies for internships or just to start off. I don't know. But it's a good practice to have. LinkedIn is a very, very powerful tool for you. And LinkedIn also gives you access to something called SlideShare. And SlideShare has a whole lot of great content for you to learn things from. Yeah. I did give us a certain starting answer to this big question about, so what is brand strategy and what is creative? Why does it coincide? Does it work together? Now, our modern form of advertising as we know it, in terms of agencies and all, started in around the 1920s, 30s, thereabouts. It started really taking shape. And at that time, these roles didn't exist. The guy who was a strategist was the guy who was a copywriter, because again, it is about finding that one thing that will make people act, make people pay attention. But now we are a very complex world, and therefore our roles are divided. So if you ask me simply that what is brand strategy, what does it tell you to do? That's exactly the answer. Brand strategy tells you what to do. You being a client, I'm a client, I'm a brand, I'm trying to understand, okay, this is how I have to sell this piece of soap, or I have to sell a mobile phone, or I have to sell clothes, or I have to sell a car. How do I do it? Brand strategy helps you understand that. It takes research, it makes the story, it tells you the flow. First do this, then do this, together do this, go on radio, go on TV, then digital do this. That's what brand strategy does. And what does creative do in which case? Creative doesn't. Creative takes all of these ideas once they're approved by the client, and then we make these things. But there is a place where they intersect. Where they intersect is both of them tell a brand how to go about doing it. There are many steps to this process, and again, it's a fairly detailed process, and it's not really strict as a linear form. But brand strategy will come to you with audiences. It will tell you how to understand audiences. It will tell you how to approach those audiences. It will give you insights. Creative will tell you what are the formats you should make these ads in. What are the different kind of places you can add. That's actually media's role, but creative will make all of those things. Art and copy. What is the message? Like if you see a message called "Just Do It," but you saw the brand next to it was Maruti, you wouldn't believe it, right? That's because it's not true. Every brand has something called a look. It has got something called a voice. A voice means the way it says things. It is a certain language. Like when Asian Paints gives a message, ki, har ghar kuch kehta hai. It is a very Indian message. It is a very nice message. So creative comes up with those lines. It comes up with a look for their entire ad. And then, of course, it helps in the production of it. We guys sitting in agencies don't take out cameras and go and shoot things ourselves. We have got production houses whom we work with, but we guide those production houses. We work with directors. We work with photographers to figure out how it does. And that is where the two kind of things intersect. So strategy and creative together make sure that a brand moves forward. And account management are the wheels, on which the entire day-to-day thing turns. The last bit that I want to cover today is I want to cover something about startups, because I know all of you obviously are aware of what startups are. You're also aware of that maybe you're interested in having a startup of your own, in which I would say best of luck, go for it. Best time in India to go and do these things. Try your luck in building your own company. However, many of you may be interested in working with startups, and how would you go about doing it? I think people, as what startups mostly need once the main idea is cracked, what they need is marketing. The way you can be part of a startup in a very pertinent way is by being part of their marketing campaign, marketing team. And you can start with an internship, and you can start by understanding what the company is. I especially encourage you to at least do an internship with a startup of whatever category that you interest you, whether it's technology, whether it is retail, whether it is app, some kind of service app. Because 5 years from now, every service that you need in your life, when you're young professionals and when you're already working, you're earning well, you will be starting to use these apps to build your own life. So why not try to start finding out how this works? Because unlike traditional companies, startups don't come with something called legacy. They don't come with a history. They come like everything is new. And that may help you a lot in just kind of shaping the way you like to think. Startups are often led by people who are extremely smart and who are extremely committed. So you may enjoy the energy as well a lot. as compared to a traditional company where, you will learn a lot, but you will grow a little, you'll grow, stage by stage. Startups is like a boot camp. It's an adrenaline rush. You can just do it for 3 months, maybe 6 months, and pick up a lot of learning. I put up a question about, are there opportunities in sports marketing and movie marketing? In India, sports, especially franchises, which is what we, of course, IPL is the top of all of that. And then there is Kabaddi. Then there is now badminton is coming up. Then next, from this year onwards, something called futsal has started. Then there is a football league. Then there will be golf. There will be there's already tennis. Sports marketing is a huge, huge industry that is just starting to shape up in India. And this is a great space for many of you to occupy, especially if but you must have an inherent interest in sports. What can you do in part of a sports marketing franchise? There are multiple roles, honestly. One role is, of course, the event part of it. That you're part of the team that actually puts the event together, puts the entire franchise process together. Then there's a part of it which is about how do you market this brand? How do you sell the tickets? How do you put up the ads? How do you build partnerships between, let's say, the way there is KKR or Mumbai Indians, and how they partner with different brands, that you can be part of that team. There are a huge amount of opportunities. If you're interested in sports, if you really like sports, I definitely encourage you to look at these kind of companies as well. There's a massive amount of opportunity, and you get to be a client. That means agencies will come to you and present to you about what kind of creative ideas work best for that particular franchise. Cinema, movies. In India, the movie industry is growing hugely. And movie marketing is a massive, massive space by itself, even though it is very much attached to the production houses like Yash Raj Pictures or Eros or the multiple others. But movie marketing itself, it's a very interesting space. Earlier, what used to happen was when we would look for marketing jobs, we would either join an agency or we would end up joining a brand. The reason now you are no longer restricted by it. Some of you may be absolutely crazy about movies, and I really would say that you should pay heed to, you should pay attention to this is what I like doing, and you have the chance. But what do I do in a movie marketing space? Of course, you market movies. But what you also do is work on roles like, brand placement. You work on, movie publicity, which is not going and putting out the posters, which is about actually, aligning different kind of things. Creating content. Branded content is a huge thing. Maybe there's a huge movie coming up, and there is a piece of branded content that goes along with it. It's very, very important. And it makes a huge amount of difference to both the movie itself and the brands. And then, and the last opportunity which I would ask a lot of people to look at is definitely TV channels. India, while many people say that, globally, because of so many things on the web, including YouTube, also Netflix, and other such, Hotstar, that TV viewership in India is going down. This is not really true. If that were true, there would not be so many new channels, right? And making a channel takes a huge amount of money. TV channels are an interesting space for marketing professionals to work in, because there are multiple levels. On one level, you are marketing the channel itself, whether it is Sony Live, whether it is Sony Max, whether it is Star TV, any of this. On another level, you are also marketing certain shows. You're marketing certain lifestyles. In my experience, I work with National Geographic Channel, which some of you, I'm sure some of you kind of watch it every now and then. It's a very nice channel. And in fact, when I used to work on it, and this is very early 2000s, is when we came up with the term infotainment. Up till that point in time, there was no such thing called infotainment. There was either information channels or there was entertainment channels. Like infotainment as a category also is very interesting, because you get a lot of opportunities to kind of, experiment using different media formats, whether it be regular media such as TV, or it be this thing, or it be generally any kind of program that you may be wanting to talk about. So that's pretty much my piece. I'm going to leave it open to you guys to start asking me a few questions, and I'm ready whenever you are.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gaurav. So, Mr. Gaurav has thrown open the forum for question and answers. So, students can always come near the screen and ask the questions, or if they can use the chat box which is available on your screens. Yes, do we have any questions? So before the students start with the questions, do you mind if I pose one question to you?
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Tell me.
Okay. So actually the advertising war between Ola and Uber, where Ola is using the nationalistic approach, they're actually using that Indianized version of Uber. So would that
Yeah.
affect Uber as a company where they are, on the back foot when it comes to advertisement?
Um,
So they need to recalibrate their approach towards advertising, towards their brand strategy, where they have to play according to the field which is set by Ola. That okay, we are an Indianized brand, and that is the reason you should go for Ola instead of Uber. And same happens with maybe Airbnb or Amazon.
All right, great. Let me quickly answer this question because I've also got a great question from Apex Institute. This idea that you think that Ola, see, this is what advertising is. It's actually a projection. It's not really true. Uber is as much Indian as Ola is not Indian, so to say. Because all of Ola's money is coming from abroad. Uber has at least invested in India. So, it's not really about, that is exactly the thing. Today you would think that Samsung is a great, great company with great products. But that is not necessarily absolutely true. So to answer your specific question, Ola works in a different way. Ola started in India. That is why they say, you should support Indian. But by that, you should actually be in an auto rickshaw. No? You should not even be in a foreign car. So these are the ideas. These are the ideas that people give. For that case, the amount, what I know for a fact, having especially worked with both Ola and Uber, is that Uber invests more per driver than Ola does. These are stories that you see at the back of the scene. But I would say that, being neutral to the entire process, neither of them are more or less Indian. If it's running on Indian streets, everything is Indian. Yeah, that's why I would say. A great question has come in from Apex Institute, and the question is, will traditional advertising will be overtaken by digital advertising in the coming future? Yes and no. Yes, because again, I go back to the primary, source of all advertising, what keeps all advertising going, which is audience. When you guys, India has the biggest population of people who are between 15 and 35. And also like a very large population of young people below 15. So 15 is an age group that we can start advertising to in the digital space. We don't advertise to people below that. It's just an ethical thing. It will overtake because there will be more audiences on digital platforms than there will be on traditional platforms. But that is not going to happen for at least 20 years. So, and in 20 years, maybe the entire thing will change all over again. Like maybe there will be a new Google or a new Facebook or something else. At least in the next 10 years, digital will come up most probably to where the place maybe traditional is. And maybe it will match it over the next 15 years. after 15 years, we don't know where the world is going to be like, So that's what I would say. But definitely, I would say digital has a lot more interesting possibilities at this point in time than traditional, because traditional has kind of been exploited for over 50, 40, 30, 40, 50 years. So the format for digital traditional is getting over. I hope that answers your question. Do let me know. I have a very nice question here. Ashish from Asian Business School, Delhi, is asking us, every customer nowadays uses ad blocking apps, then how advertising will shape up in the future to cater to millennial generation? Ashish, this is a fantastic question. Ad blocking is an interesting thing because it depends what you're blocking. When you guys are on Facebook, and I know for a fact that you guys spend a lot of time on Facebook, looking at a lot of stuff, there are a lot of brands that you like. So you're not really blocking them. Again, it goes back to the quality of content, where I go back to creativity. If a message is not interesting, why should you look at it? Ad blocking is actually, people don't do it a lot because people are also lazy. They don't actively block a lot. And in fact, I can tell you from Facebook itself, we do a lot of ad block. We used to do a lot of ad blocking at the source ourselves. We don't let ads that we don't think are very good, or that is repetitive, or that is inappropriate even go up. So I don't think that will, I think also the millennial generation itself is a lot more choosier about the kind of content that they like. So I don't think ad blocking in any way negatively impacts the industry. The numbers are minuscule, but more importantly, I think it's a great indicator that bad quality creativity and content should not be viewed by anybody at all. Ashish, I hope that answers your question. Please feel free to kind of add another point if you want to. I have another question here from Ms. Rajni at Hindu Management Institute. What type of advertisement there should be there for any startups? Great question. Since I talked about startups, let us look at startups themselves. There are multiple kinds of startups. Some startups are technology. Some startups are just retail, like e-commerce. Some startups are just services. It depends, and of course, the kind of advertising you have, 100% first depends on the amount of budget you have. Sometimes that budget is almost zero, honestly. But because a startup by inherently means that it is something that is born in a digital world, means that you 100% have to be digitally present, which means that you should be on Facebook, you should be on Instagram, you should have great content running on maybe YouTube. I'll give you an idea here. There are a lot of dating apps nowadays. There is Tinder. There is, of course, there are multiple other dating apps and shadi apps and all that. Now, these products weren't always apps; they were also websites. Now, because these products are being adapted to apps, yet people are advertising them on television. It is sometimes important for an app, for a startup to advertise on television, because being on television makes a brand look big. Until you have seen a brand on television, you don't really believe it is big, honestly. Ola only started looking big when it had all those TV ads. Uber still doesn't look as big to us because it doesn't do anything on TV, but quietly on the digital front, it does a lot of great stuff. So when you say what should startups do, 100% they should be digitally extremely active, because none of us in all your rooms and where I am will ever look at a new brand and not go to Google and search for it. Therefore, you have to be digitally present. At the same time, to build your brand image, you may consider being on television if you can afford it. Being on television is not cheap. If you have to be on prime time, like prime time means like a great cricket match, or it means like a very highly rated television serial or something like that. For a 30-second spot, you are spending a lot of money. So you must obviously have those kind of resources. But that doesn't mean your brand can't be big on digital in terms of reaching to people and making impact and making a business grow. Digital is what is going to help you a lot. I hope that answers your question. Here we go. Sundar Goswami, who's from Asian Business School, has a question. I have a startup idea which would cater to a TG of 35 to 50-year-old people. Now, being a student, I don't have the funds to invest in below-the-line activities. How FB or Google Ads can help me reach them? Or is there a cost-effective way to reach them? Sundar, congratulations. It's a great thing to have a good idea. See, the 35 to 50-year-old people, first, I think the first thing you have to do is like most probably make your idea. What do you make your idea? Is it meant to be an app? Is it meant to be a website? Is it a service? What is it? Until you make that, and sometimes you always don't need funds to do that, to set up your business plan, to set up your business model, to set up even a prototype. Okay, it would be a website. Cool. So, how can FB or Google Ads can help you? Firstly, SEO, SEM, search engine optimization, search engine marketing. That doesn't take as much money, and you can really target that. However, if you want to reach out to a 35 to, especially, see, a 35-year-old is very different from a 50-year-old. Huh? I can tell you that because I'm 35 years old and I would definitely look at your website. But a 50-year-old need not look at a website. Therefore, how do you reach him? Maybe there is still effective things such as door-to-door advertising. There's still effective things such as newspaper inserts. There's still effective things such as even newspaper ads. But the way FB can help you, if you really want it to be so, is like it doesn't take you a lot of money to advertise on FB or even use Google AdWords or SEO, SEM. You may, but you definitely will need a little bit of capital. The way FB works is that if your audiences, I don't know if you have tried Ad Manager on Facebook. If you haven't, I suggest each of you kind of just take about maybe like 500, 600 rupees, maybe a little more. Open up Facebook ad, start putting an ad, start boosting your own profile. I know these words are not making sense. The only way they will make sense is if you go to Facebook, start advertising your own profile, reaching out to people, you'll understand how that format works. If you start looking at Ads Manager, you will understand how to reach out to audiences, how much money you will need, what kind of impact you will have. Sundar, I suggest you start doing this. Some of these questions are very well answered by yourself through research that you put in. If I give you an idea, you will think I am saying the right answer, but it may not be the right answer. The right answer is the reason that you and cover that. Yeah. But definitely SEO, SEM, AdWords, Facebook boosting can help you reach a lot of 35 to 40-year-olds. Aniket Raut from Datta Mege Institute asks me that which kind of creativity we will make in advertising for developing a sale. Aniket, it depends what you're selling. Firstly, it depends whom you're selling it to. There is no kind of creativity. Creativity is creativity. Like, excuse me. It is just generally creative work which is relevant, which represents the brand and is relevant to the audience that it is doing. So I would suggest, okay, so here let's start doing, if you guys want to look at what creative advertising is, you can start looking at some websites such as Campaign India. You can start looking at AFAX. You can start understanding the industry better. You can start looking at Ad Age. And if you can just Google all of these, it will lead you to the right links. I don't need to give you the .com and all. Saying .com is like 1995. Also, there are multiple other creative, there are websites that kind of is a showcase of like creative work across the web. Take a look, understand what creativity can be. I think you've asked a very good question that you should try to answer yourself by just looking at what creativity can possibly mean. Look at a lot of advertising on YouTube. There's a lot of great content on YouTube about advertising. Again, from Hindu Management Institute, a question comes: news channels are full of advertisements. Is it really required? Yes, very much. Otherwise, where will the money come from? It's through these advertising that the news channels are actually earning money to put together the news channel. There is no news channel if there is no advertising. So it is very important. But the kind of advertising that comes on news channels, well, honestly, I find advertising on news channels better than the news itself. But please understand that advertising pays for the stuff that you see on TV. That's the only place that these guys can actually run the industry itself. So yes, absolutely critical. Asian Business School from Delhi. Would language medium perhaps be a hurdle? No, not at all. Because it depends again. When we plan media planners, there are people called media planners. The media planners tell you, if people like to, like you and me may understand Hindi, but you and me may like to get the message in English. So media planners do that. So language is never a hurdle. And also when we create advertising, like the same ad that you're seeing in Delhi in Hindi, you may actually see it in Marathi in Bombay. You will see it in Kannada in Bangalore. You will see it in Tamil in Chennai. So we do languages. I hope that answers that question. Languages are not really a hurdle. There are media planners who work on figuring that out. And we also keep it in mind when we are making stuff. We do edits, we do dubs in different languages if need be. But English is becoming the language of choice for brands because it is understood. English is more of an Indian language now than it has ever been before. I will answer a question from Prashant Nimade from, again, Dattamege. As we know, 72% of population of India lives in rural area. Is advertising, whether it is digital advertising or traditional advertising, effective in rural India? How can we make it effective? It's a good question. I know I haven't been able to cover a lot of things today, but one of the things I maybe should have talked about is the fact that rural advertising is a separate, there is actually rural advertising wings that agencies have. Traditionally, in rural advertising, we did a lot of things. We did radio a lot. We did a lot of, wall paintings. We did a lot of door-to-door. We did a lot of street theater as advertising. So rural advertising has been present in India for a long, long, long time. Currently, I think the question is more about how can we digitally activate this potential, this population, 72 of this population. As you're saying, I'm not very sure it is 72% immediately. I think the number has decreased. In fact, not because the people have moved from rural to urban, because more areas have become semi-urban than rural and becoming urban as well. So how do we reach out digitally? Actually, we don't reach out as much digitally as we do through mobile. Mobile advertising, when you start exploring it a lot more, you'll realize how it is reaching out to rural populations in India, especially the agricultural populations in India, what kind of content we are putting up for those kind of people. But yet, yes, it is still not, the penetration is not as high as it should be. But how are these people becoming digital? That answer may not actually come from agencies. That answer is coming from people like Facebook and Google, who are creating such low data versions of their platforms that even on a very simple phone, which is not even a smartphone, a feature phone, like the old school, like the old time BlackBerry kind of phone, even you can see Facebook on that. They are flying drones that will carry Wi-Fi to different areas. These are all experimented right now. So your same question, Prashant, 5 years from now, I think you will find an answer. Hello, Professor Singh from Asian Business School. Could you please share the links of websites where we can find the genuine trends into advertising, or place where we can reach out to the veterans like you? I'm happy to talk to you guys again at some other point in time. But I have mentioned certain websites. Professor, I would suggest that a few websites that I will list now, you just take it down. I think it's a good start for the students to have. I don't want to overwhelm them with information. I will mention all of these websites once I answer all the questions at the end. I hope that's all right. Because honestly, there is a huge amount of content, and if I send a list of 20 places, it'll just be like, what do I look at and where? Because advertising will sometimes give you a definitive answer. Sometimes it's an answer that you make for yourself after looking at 5 or 6 things. And I know the coursework is very extensive, so I don't want to take up so much of your students' time. I hope that's all right. Again, a question from Hindu Management Institute. Can you please highlight the marketing strategy of Reliance Jio? I have not been part of the Reliance Jio team, so I can't really highlight it. I can give you my observation on it. Reliance Jio, because it comes from Reliance, they spent a massive amount of money, obviously, to first set up the network. What I would encourage you to do before I answer this specific question is for you guys to go and read about how Reliance Jio intends to make money. Basically, Reliance Jio intends to replace Vodafone and Airtel and Idea and Aircel on all your phones by extremely low prices. Obviously, with low prices, low data prices, all of you will go for that. Then they will have apps. That's where they will end up making money. So the marketing strategy. Now you must understand, marketing is obviously they have come up with this entire huge plan where they will lure in people through low prices, and they will keep them there by giving different incentives. Like a lot of apps don't always, sometimes apps are charged by the Apple Store or by Google Play and something. Reliance Jio will have their own apps. They may be for free or much lower prices, but they will basically, be the same app as the ones that you get on iPhone. Maybe they may not be as good. Again, they will subsidize music. They will subsidize content. That is marketing strategy. I think you might be also wanting to ask about advertising strategy. I think using having a prime minister endorse the brand, in spite of the fact that Mr. Narendra Modi doesn't actually work for Reliance, is a great advertising strategy. I don't know how they pulled it off, but obviously they're Reliance. They can do a lot of things. I know we're at the end of our session. I am okay with taking one more question if you want. Otherwise, otherwise through WeBind, I'm happy to share a whole set of links that will be helpful. Professor Singh, I'm sure that will be helpful too. And unless there are any other questions, maybe we can close the session.
So there is one question which the college has by mistakenly sent to me. I just posted on your screen.
Sounds good. Good question here. How does Facebook remarketing work? I'm presuming it's from Hindu Management Institute. See, Facebook remarketing is an interesting algorithm. You must understand that these are not typical advertising processes where you go and buy the media. You still buy the media, but it is an algorithm that is based on basically optimizing messaging and optimizing how you reach out to brands, or optimizes how brands reach out to people. It's the way I'll give you a very simple way of thinking of it works. Here are 10 of you, okay? 10 of you are the audience, the total audience of a brand. Out of that, using Facebook marketing, you can only reach about maybe 5 to 6 of them. There's always 3 or 4 whom you can't reach out to at one go, in the first go. Otherwise, your costs would be very, very high. Then you have reached out to 5 or 6 people. Out of 5 or 6 people, you have had a little bit more interest from maybe 3 people. That means 3 people haven't shown their interest as much. And those are also they're automatized at the back through algorithms. So that picks up. And as an advertiser, you get to see it on your dashboard, on your console, and you add Facebook Ads Manager, which I highly encourage you guys to go try out. It will tell you that, okay, this hasn't actually made an impact with these people. And, you know, let me go and remarket it. Let me just reach out to those people again. But it's become automatized. You actually don't have to choose the audience. You're getting to see many of these things. Again, Facebook also owns Instagram. Now, when you're going into Instagram, what is also happening is that Instagram, so when you're marketing through Instagram, you can also market it at the same thing through Facebook. So that is also remarketing. So remarketing algorithms itself have a multiple number of ways and patterns. Once you start working with these consoles, once you start encouraging it, maybe one of the brands that you can have is your own college. You know, maybe you can advertise for your own college, create some things. It's not a bad thing to try out. I know every college has a particular messaging. Maybe you can take the messaging and talk about what you're learning. It's great content for all. And that will also give you guys the opportunity to play with Facebook, especially advertising, because that is going to be a huge part of media. It still already is a huge part of media. It will give you the opportunity to learn how it really works. I can tell you this, and never be intimidated by the fact that you don't know everything. It is your job as an advertiser, as a marketer, is not to know everything. It is to remain absolutely, consistently, persistently curious about everything. As long as you stay curious, you'll keep on learning on your own. Anything else I can help with? Shall we call it?
I think we have already exceeded the time. So thank you very much for sharing your expertise and experience. I think we have already started getting the feedback live from the colleges right now on your screen.
Well, I'm glad you guys have given me a very important hour of your life. And, I know how busy you are. This has been a pleasure. I look forward to meeting you sometime in real life. And if not, maybe we'll meet again soon online. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you once again for sharing your time, sir. Can we have a
Gaurav, my pleasure.
applause for Mr. Gaurav here?
I will just...
students who missed that. Students, can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Gaurav?
Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I mean, I love the fact that you guys have come together and spent time with me. And I wish you all the very best for your future. And I hope at least some of you are part of the marketing and advertising industry at some point. All right? I'll take your leave. Thank you. Goodbye. Cheers. Bye.
Okay, students, just give me like 5 minutes. I'll just quickly explain you how do you get your free certificate for this session. So I'm sure every one of you, every student here who has attended this session must have registered on our website. I'll just share my screen. So once you log into our website, that is WeBind.in, you will be on the home page on the right-hand side. Okay, it's taking time to getting connected. On the right-hand side, you have got the option for sign up. So sign up as a student. Please do not sign up as a faculty or an expert. We have got multiple sign-ups where the students sign up as a faculty or expert. It's still time where you go on as a faculty or expert a couple of years more. So right now, just sign up as a student. Once you have made your credentials, go back to our website and log in with your details. Let's take a dummy ID here. So once you log in, on the right-hand side, you've got the option for certificate. And here is a list of all the sessions that WeBind has hosted up till now. So for today's session that was on advertising, just click on it, just click on select. And you've got all the list of colleges. Just select which college you're from. Suppose you're from Apex Institute of Management, Rajasthan. Just select to get a certificate. Once you click on it, you'll get a few questions. Answer those questions, and this request will be redirected to your professors. So all the professors who are present as of now, please note that you will be getting all the requests from the students. So just approve their request, and later the students can again visit our website and download a certificate. Let's take an example here. And this is how your certificate will look like. With the brand's name, with the master's name. So you can always visit our website, register, and download your free certificate. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Have a nice day.